the B.I.T.E system for permanent and substantial fat loss. I'd like to take you through an effortless 4-step approach without the need for dieting, calorie counting, exercise or NLP hypnosis CDs. This is an approach I believe is the best way for permanent and substantial fat loss. It's an approach I always take, and it's an approach that I've always helped and shown and taught my clients. This approach has far higher success rates than the eat less and exercise more crowd. Study after study is showing that the weight loss comes back, sometimes more, sometimes a lot more, and it's the biggest problem. This approach costs nothing, and probably the reason why you don't read about this approach in the media is because it's not marketed aggressively. There's no money to be made for the companies. So once again, this is nothing to do with exercise classes, no calorie counting, food diaries, diet plans, pills, powders, potions, extracts, or hypnosis. You can start this today after this video. And promise me one thing, when you get results with this approach, teach your partner, teach your children. Okay, step number 1, believe you can get results and change is possible. What do I mean? This is probably the most neglected part of any program that I see out there. I mean, I can show you step by step how to reach your normal weight, but if you do not believe in yourself, I'm afraid it's just not going to happen for you, and you will go and self-sabotage these efforts. This is about your self-image, what you imagine to be true about yourself. I mean, your self-image, your beliefs about yourself, are the gatekeepers of possibility for you. I mean, they really do decide how much success you think you deserve. I encourage you to work on this area so you get to the point with all conviction that it's possible to reach the improved image you've set for yourself. You must at least get to a level of self-acceptance to even begin this journey. Look, your self-image controls so much about you, so build a big one. If you'd like some help in this area, there's one book I've always recommended to my clients, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Okay, step number 2, ignore traditional weight loss methods. I mean, hopefully by now you've had a chance to watch video 1, the 7 big fat lies about weight loss, where I've gone through all the misconceptions, the misdirection and the lies that I believe are very much in the public eye at the moment. Eat less or healthier and exercise more equals the solution to obesity. This message we hear time after time from the media and the government. I mean, recently I attended a national obesity conference, and to be honest with you, the experts are now worried about the levels of obesity in this country, and they're starting to blame the approach or the message rather than blaming the public for their lack of self-discipline. Because the problem is, this approach over the last decade has not worked. I mean, a very well-known saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over but expecting different results. I mean, let me make an assumption here. Perhaps you are here today listening to this message because it's not the first time you've tried to lose weight. So I'm urging you to try a new approach. Open your mind and really take this information on board. Okay, so here's the crux of this approach. You have a normal weight range for you or your unique body. For some people it's 1 or 2 pounds, where it varies. For other people it could be as much as 8 to 10 pounds. I mean, if you look at your eye colour, your height and your hair colour, they're pretty much set, and that's what you have. Same with your normal weight range, it's unique for you. If you eat normally, you will maintain this weight range for the whole of your life. Now, what do I mean by eating normally? Let me read to you a very good definition of this by an expert in the US called Ellen Satter. Normal eating is going to the table hungry and eating until you are satisfied. choosing food that you like and not stopping eating because you think that you should. Giving some thought to food selection and the nutrition, but not making this restrictive. Sometimes giving yourself permission to eat because you're happy, sad or bored. 3 meals a day, or 4 or 5. Leaving some biscuits on a plate because you know you can have some later or tomorrow. Overeating at times, feeling stuffed and uncomfortable. Undereating at times and wishing you had had more. Trusting your body to make up for the mistakes in eating. And eating takes up some of your time, but it's not an area you spend a lot of time on. Very interesting definition of normal eating. But if you're above your normal weight range, this is usually because your eating is screwed up. And the key here is, if you begin to eat normally again, your weight will, and it's guaranteed, return to its normal weight range. So normal eating is really listening to and acting upon your normal eating signals. I mean, you can break eating down into 3 very simple parts. Hunger, when you want to eat. Appetite, what you want to eat. And when you're sated, really how much, your satisfaction levels. The biggest challenge here is to not be influenced by the food and the weight loss advertising and marketing, because they're very good at what they do. And the challenge is to learn how to eat normally again, and I mean really learn how. How to reconnect with your normal eating signals. Step 3. Trust the natural self-regulation of your own body. This really is the key to weight control. Have a trusting relationship with your own body. I mean, your body does a pretty good job of looking after itself, if only you give it a chance. And once you begin to understand this, it will really start to make sense. I mean, we're talking self-regulation here. I mean, your body is a wonderfully complex mechanism that really has many self-regulation mechanisms or systems that go on throughout the day without you really, being aware of them. I mean, a good example of these are your self-regulation of thirst, of tiredness, of body temperature. I mean, just look at this in a little bit more detail. For example, thirst. I mean, you're doing something, you become thirsty. You don't want to become too thirsty because you get dehydrated. So you drink and savour the first few sips, and you gradually realise that the drink is losing its appeal and you become satisfied. You put the rest back in the fridge, or you throw away the liquid that you have. You get back to what you were doing. You don't talk about fluids all day. And the same goes for tiredness and temperature. You listen to the signals and you act upon them. However, when we become hungry, we get confused and look for somebody else to give us a bunch of rules to follow. Let me show you how normal eaters deal with hunger and eating throughout the day. I mean, shouldn't hunger and dealing with hunger look like this? You're doing something, you become hungry. You don't want to become too hungry because you end up feeling really starved. So you go and eat something, you savour the first few bites, and you gradually realise the food loses its appeal and you become satisfied with that food. You put the rest back in the fridge, or you throw it into the bin. You get on with what you're doing. You don't talk about food all day. I mean, going back to thirst and the regulation of thirst, do you weigh and measure your water? Do you deprive yourself when you're thirsty? Do you talk about water all day long? Do you page through endless books, DVDs, TV shows about water? Do you complain about the water restriction program you are on? Do you plan what you're going to drink today? Do you drink water if you have negative emotions? Do you take weird, wonderful pills and powders to suppress your normal thirst? Can you see how silly all this is getting? Okay, step number 4. Experiment and become an expert in you. You must start to become an expert in you. Work with your body, not to pick a fight with it. Experiment with your hunger levels. Experiment and build a massive appetite. Experiment with your levels of satisfaction. I mean, you already possess all the tools you need to overcome or really to cure your overeating problem. This is about mastery. This is about mastering your normal eating signals, which you can improve on day by day. And you know what? Make this all fun. Because the whole point about all of this is I want you to love food again, and I want you to bring back the eating experience of enjoyment. So I've taken you through the B.I.T.E approach for permanent and substantial fat loss. Believe you can get results and change is possible. Ignore traditional weight loss approaches, they're just not working. Trust the wonders of your own body if only you give it a chance. And experiment. Begin a lifelong experiment starting today of you. I mean, just to wrap this up, your body is far too sophisticated for normal dieting to ever work long term. You must start to become an expert in your normal eating signals. Work with your body, do not pick a fight with it. The key to putting less in your mouth is to be satisfied with less. The key to long-term weight control is having a trusting relationship with your own body and giving it permission to eat when you are hungry. Is this all starting to make sense? I really do hope so. So hopefully I've now given you a totally different approach to dealing with this frustrating problem. But let's be honest here, you will have to put in some time and effort to relearn these skills that we've discussed today. The skills of reconnecting with your hunger, building your appetite, listening to those silent whispers of satisfaction, developing a stronger self-image, ignoring traditional advertising and marketing, and experimenting.